Hey there, thanks for stopping by and checking out the video. I'll tell you, it's a very exciting time in this hobby right now. So Minelab just released this machine. It's the X-Terra Elite. You can get it in this version, and there's another version of it where you get an extra coil and some wireless headphones in the same box. They call that the Expedition Pack. And this machine fills the gap between, which is still a pretty new machine, the X-Terra Pro, and a great entry-level beginner machine right here, just feature-packed, bang for the buck, off the charts. Fills a gap between that and the Equinox 900, which is an incredible machine, with this being a lot more like the 900 than it is the Pro. We'll talk about the differences. And we're gonna go ahead and, like I always do with the new machine, we're gonna go ahead and unbox it for you, take it all out, put it together, and I'll describe features to you as we go along the way. And then we'll turn it on and I'll run through all the settings. So we'll get started with the unboxing right after this. All right, let's go ahead and take a look inside the box. Before we do that, we'll look at the outside of the box. You can see here's the front of the box here. I'll put a graph up on the screen for you right now. You can take a look at that. So Minelab lately has had some pretty good looking artwork on their boxes, front and back. And it's the kind of thing where they put so much information on here that if you were, for example, inside a big box store and you couldn't find someone to help you and you saw this on the shelf, you could walk up there and just read the box and know just about everything you would need to know before you make the decision whether or not to buy it. So I like that there's so much information on this box. Like I said, go ahead and take a look at the graphics on the screen right now. And you can see here's one of the front sides of the box. There's a back side with some of the accessories. You can go back and rewind this if you need to. And then here's this edge. And then this edge over here says that this is designed by Minelab Electronics out of Australia, assembled for Minelab Electronics out of Australia, under contract, made in Malaysia. So I've talked about that before. What's made in Malaysia today is some pretty good stuff. They have some of the best tooling and equipment in the world. Hands down, they're just making really good stuff, including your cell phone, your cameras, your TVs, everything that we're using these days is coming out of Malaysia, and it's very well executed. Good stuff. So having said that, that's where this is made. I don't see an issue with that. Let's go ahead and open the box up and take a look inside. Before I do, I want to tell you also it's not sealed. So that's kind of the way it's been lately with all the Minelab stuff. They're not sealed. Okay, inside here I can see we have a document here that is folded into 4 parts. It's paper that is waxy and waterproof, and it is a quick start guide that you can keep with you. You could throw this in your pocket or your backpack. It has like a real nice little, number 1, turn on the machine. Number 2, select your search mode. 3, noise cancel. 4, go detecting, but if it was me, I'd put number 4, ground balance, and then 5, go detecting. But anyway, it's got everything in here that you might need. You put this in your pocket or backpack and you're good out in the field. Nice little guide there. And there is no other owner's manual in here, just this. And the owner's manual for this is on the website if you want to go into some deep reading on this. Little safety sheet here that came with it, talking about radio frequencies and stuff like that. And so here's the lower shaft. It is a carbon fiber-like material that is crazy strong. It's spun, so you can feel there's spiral spun feeling to it, or texture. It is not flexible at all. You literally cannot flex this. And it appears to be ambidextrous the way it goes in. It's got a couple little teardrop shaped concave areas down here for the grommets. We'll talk about that in a second. And let's see, here's the pod. This is the control pod, so you can see that it's very similar to the X-Terra Pro and very similar to the Equinox 700 and 900. So this is a plastic. It's a very hard plastic. It's a beautiful color. I love this color. It has some textured rubber right here. So it's very grippy right here, nice textured rubber. That rubber extends around the outside of the box, the control housing here, and it gives it a nice protective feeling around the edges. The buttons here are encased in that rubber and they're clicky. There's no way that you're going to get dirt or anything in there that you can't just wash right out. I just inadvertently turned it on. Looking at the back of the machine, it has the typical magnetic charging port back here, and then the waterproof headphone jack, the place that the coil goes in. But it's feels about like the weight of an Equinox 700 or 900 control pod. I don't know if you can see this in the camera or not, but the buttons here stick up off the face so you can feel them. They're clicky, they click, and they're tactile because you can feel them at night or whatever. And again, talking about getting dirt in here, this is something that if you got dirt on here, you could just rinse it right off. There's no place for dirt to get stuck inside there. So pretty good design on that. Has a little cam lock down here where it can adjust onto the shaft. We'll show you that in a second. But the weight of it's lightweight, but I like the quality of it. All right, let's see what we got here. So here is the arm cuff system. You can see there's one hole here, no hole here, a little hole on the bottom where we're going to mount that. And, you know, arm cuffs are always an issue with me with every machine. I just can't seem to get my arm in them. If I open this thing all the way up to as wide as it'll go, which would be right there, if I have a jacket on, I'm going to have trouble getting this on over my jacket. It's just, these are never big enough for me. I don't know what it is. I wish they'd make these a little bit bigger. But for whatever reason, they just, I'm sure a lot of you have that same issue. We should stop eating our spinach maybe. I don't know what's going on with this, but I wish they were just a little bit longer and they would fit my arm. But as it is, it's like all the other ones, a little small for me. So here is the upper shaft and mid shaft. Cam locks on those. Here is the charging cable inside here. And we have the coil bolt, two of the little teardrop-shaped rubber grommets in there. And there's an Allen wrench and a screw with some blue Loctite on it. And let's see what else is in here. So it looks like the coil, it's got the 12-inch coil, the V12X coil. Let's take a look at that coil. Coil's pretty light, feels pretty light compared to some other coils that are this size. It's, like I say, it's very light feeling for some reason. It has a skid plate on it, you can see that. The design here doesn't call for a nut anymore, so it's threaded right here on this cleat. So you screw the bolt in there and it just grabs right onto the cleat there. The cable is well made, it's nice and strong and heavy. The boot is awesome. Whoever's working on coils right now on a Minelab is just killing it. This is awesome. This is really good design on the boot right here. I'm so glad to see that that's being paid attention to. And when you compare this to other coils of this size from other manufacturers, this is just a little bit lighter feeling than those. And that's probably good. That means it's going to swing a little lighter, but it does feel strong also. So anyway, we'll see how that plays out. But there's all the parts. We'll go ahead and skip ahead to the next part of the video where we put all this together. Let's go ahead and check that part out right here. All right, let's make sure you have everything out that you need. You need the lower shaft, both upper shafts, so it's the mid and the upper shaft together, arm cuff, the Allen wrench and the little screw that came with that, the pod itself, the coil, of course, both of the little teardrop-shaped rubber grommets, and the coil bolt. So you need to have all this stuff out to do what we're going to do right now. So go ahead and get all that together real quick and then just follow along. First step is going to be, we're going to take this piece right here and you can see that there is a hole on the bottom of these two shafts here. If you orient the little cam locks down, you'll see a hole on the bottom too. That's down. And then the back, that hole back here lines up to the hole on the bottom of the arm cuff, and you would just slide that in there and put the bolt in. But we can't do that until we do this part first, but it helps you orient the correct way to put this on. So take the pod and open the little cam lock at the bottom and slide that on, and it should look just like this. So you have this hanging and all these other two hanging here. All these are hanging. You can go ahead and lock these down just for a second, but that's how you want to have it. And then you got that hole on the bottom, right? And the next thing we'll do is take that arm cuff. You can see there's only one way for it to go in, and it's right in there. And that hole on the bottom will line up with the hole on the bottom of the arm cuff. So you can go ahead and flip this over real quick and get your screw and your Allen wrench. your screw has blue Loctite thread lock on it. And that's good because that helps it not back out from just average use. Go ahead and put that in there and tighten it down. You should have no resistance at all getting it started. Make sure it's lined up. It should go right in, but when you hit the blue, it's going to slow down. I can feel the blue right now. And that's that Loctite. So just keep working past that and it'll eventually just stop. When it meets resistance, there's no need to put any pressure on that at all. Just make sure it stops and then it hit resistance. The thread lock will keep that nut in there, that screw in there, and there's no need to over tighten that at all. It's not a screw that has any forces on it. So there's that part. You should have something looking just like this now. Go ahead and find your lower shaft. And this is a little tricky to get in here. It's ambidextrous. There's no up and down on it. So we're just going to make sure that it's sideways, where you see the hole going through sideways like this, right? And we're going to slide it in with this cam lock open. Like I said, it's a little tricky to get in there maybe for you, but go ahead and put that in there and lock it down. All right. Bring this back a little bit so I have room to work on my small table here. I'll bring this right about here. Okay, now you're going to need these little rubber teardrop shaped grommets, and they go in these little recessed areas right here at the end. So just pop those in there. You can't really do that wrong. It's so easy, and there's no backwards or forwards way. You just push those in there and they just kind of set in there and they're good to go. You can see both of them are in there. And as with all of the Minelab products lately, the Minelab logo goes out front. That's the toe of the detector. And the other side where the little serial number here is and the barcode is the heel of the detector coil. So with the logo out to the front, we're going to go ahead and push this down on here and look in there and try to line those holes up. And once you get it lined up, you can just put the bolt in there, and then the bolt will start tightening on the other side. Make sure you got it all the way through, and it'll grab. It'll start pulling itself across. Tighten that up, and you can see now that it's tight. I want to take an extra second and talk to you about the way that you wrap this cable around the shaft. So there's a lot of controversy and a lot of chat in all the little forums and stuff online that there's a correct way to do this, and a lot of people are concerned that if you go across the front first as opposed to going around the back first, that when you're detecting in a forward motion, we tend to detect in a forward motion, that you have a better chance to hit that on something and damage the wire, whereas if it's behind, it'll be protected and it's more likely to hit the shaft first and protect the wire. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and go around the back. But look at the way that the wire is just naturally lying. It's naturally coiled this way. It came this way, shipped from the factory. And you don't want to take this wire and go in any other direction than what it's trying to naturally do right now. So the correct way to go with this cable is to go just around the back and let it go the way that it wants to go. You can see I'm not trying to force this cable at all. I'm letting it lie the way that it lies. Look at this. See what it's doing? It's naturally going around the shaft. That way I'm not fighting against the shape of the way it was shipped. And that way it's nice and relaxed and you don't put any weird pressure on it. And you go ahead and screw this in. Now when you screw this in, by the way, there is a little detent. You can only screw it in one, it can only go in here one way. And if you look on here, there's a little arrow right on the tip of this right here, and that goes up this way. So it would be up like this. And you would look for that little arrow and then just screw that in. And once you get this finger tight, just push in one more time, push up and in one time, and finger tighten it one more time. Again, no need to over tighten that. All right, this machine is done and ready to go. I bet if I wasn't talking, I could have had this thing built in less than a minute. It's that simple and that quick to put it together. So hopefully you didn't encounter any problems at all. We'll go ahead and turn it on now and take a look at some of the features and of course all the settings. That's coming up right now. All right, to power the machine on, you're going to have to touch this button right here, and you just tap it for a few seconds, and the machine powers on. You wouldn't shut it off again, same way. Touch it, you hear that beep, and it's off. It's pretty quick to turn it on. Let's do it again. Just a tap, it's on, tap, it's off. Now if you hold this button in, keep it held in until you see FP come up on the screen, which is right now. That means that you put it all back to factory presets. So the machine is completely reset back to factory. Now that we have the machine on, let's go ahead and lower the sensitivity down since I'm indoors. We're skipping ahead a little bit here in talking about sensitivity, but I'm going to show you that if I just touch the minus sign while the machine's on, it'll bring up the sensitivity, and you can see that I can raise or lower the sensitivity. I'm going to lower it because we're indoors and I'm not actively detecting, and I just don't want it to sound off right now in the video. Next thing I want to show you is the horseshoe down here. This puts the machine in all metal mode and then discrimination. If you look at the very top of the screen up here, you can see what's happening. When I tap the horseshoe, it lets in all this iron down here. And when I hit it again, it takes out that iron. And this is the difference between having discrimination on and no discrimination, or all metal. Of course, this is adjustable when you have it on to what you're discriminating, but that's how you would toggle back and forth. All right, I want to take a second to talk about the names of each little button as we go here so that you can follow along. This is the minus sign, the cogwheel or setup button, the plus sign, accept reject button, frequency button, pinpoint button, the horseshoe or all metal mode button, and then the detect button, which is simply just a coil icon. So if we touch the detect button, you can see that it switches the modes up here. Takes us from Park 1 to Park 2. We'll do it again. Field 1, Field 2, and you can toggle right through Beach 1, Beach 2, and you can keep going. It'll come right back around again. Let's say, for example, you're in Field 2 and you've made some changes to the machine on some of the settings, but you want to go back to the factory resets just for Field 2. You can do that by holding in the detect button while you're in that mode. So I'll push and hold and wait, holding it in, and there it goes. It's reset Field 2 to factory settings. And you could do that for any of the modes in here that you want. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the most important button, at least for this video. That's going to be the setup button or cogwheel. If we tap it once, you can see an icon appears down here. And if I tap it again, I can toggle across the bottom of all these little icons. And this is where all the settings are for this machine. They're in these menus down here. And you can see that the screen changes every time I toggle to a different setting. Some of these settings have an advanced menu. This is noise cancel icon, ground balance icon, volume icon. So the first two, noise cancel and ground balance, do not have an advanced menu, but volume does. To get to the advanced menu of volume, you're going to hold the cogwheel in and a line appears, and now we're in the secondary or advanced menu of volume, which is tone volume. And you can do the opposite to get back out. Hold it and it takes you back to the regular volume. So some of these have advanced and some don't. But you toggle through them just by pushing this button through each setting. All right, so the first icon in here, noise cancel. Let's go ahead and talk about noise cancel. To do noise cancel, you would have to lift the coil up off the ground, put it out in front of you at belt height. Make sure you take a look at your owner's manual for that. And other videos that I'll have in the future about this machine where I'll demonstrate that for you. But again, you'll lift the coil off the ground, hold it out at belt height in front of you. You want to have, if you have some hunting partners out detecting with you and they all have their machines on, it would be ideal for you to have those other machines on before you do a noise cancel to make sure there's no crosstalk amongst all the machines that are on and operating nearby each other. Also, make sure that you have your sensitivity turned up as high as you're going to want to have it. Again, we could cover this in another video. But this is the first thing you would do typically when you get to a site to start detecting, is do a noise cancel. To do it, while the icon is active, you can touch the plus or minus sign, just touch it and let go, and it'll do a noise cancel, and it will grab the quietest channel it can find in the environment that you're in. Another trick for this is you can hold this in, and it will continuously do noise cancels one after another. Now it likes channel 2. I'm going to keep it held in. 2 again. One more, let's see what it does. Oh, it went to 8. Still on 8. So if you see 2 or 3 times on the same number like it's doing now, let go and trust that the machine really likes 8 to be the quietest channel to operate on in the environment that you're in. Next, we'll go over to ground balance. To do ground balance, there's 3 types of ground balance. There's manual ground balance, there's automatic ground balance, and then tracking ground balance. We're going to have to show you in a video how to use all 3 of those, but that is what the second icon is. We won't be doing that in this video. You'll have to refer to your owner's manual or my next video to learn how to ground balance. But to do that, you would have to go to this icon to start the ground balance procedure. Next thing is volume. And you can see the volume right now is at 20. I could turn it all the way up to 25. And I can hold it in and it'll rapidly go down and up. So the volume goes from 0 to 25. Then if you hold the volume in, keep it held in, we go into the advanced volume menu, which is your tone volume. See this black section up here? That's telling you that's the volume of that section over there. So just anything that comes in this first segment over here, which is typically going to be low conductors and iron, this is what the volume would be down there. So therefore you can set the volume of your iron to be lower than the volume of everything else that you desire, which is a nice feature to have. You want to hear the iron sometimes, but you don't want it to be as loud as all your other targets. So here you can adjust this. The setting that you choose here depends on whether or not you're using headphones. If you have headphones on, you may only want an 8 or a 9. If you don't have headphones, you're going to want to be up around 12 or 14 so you can hear it, but so that it's not as loud as the regular volume that you're running. But that's how you get to that menu. To get out of this, you would hold this in and right back to the regular volume. The next setting over is threshold. Threshold is something that is a sound that it plays continuously. Let's listen to it real quick. I'll turn the threshold up with the plus button. I'm going to hold it in. And you can hear a sound right now. That tone is a tone that will be on the entire time the machine is operating. And it's useful to let you know that when you go over a iron target that's being discriminated, the threshold you hear right now will go silent to let you know that you just went over something that the machine is blanking out. Therefore, it blanks out the threshold and tells you that you just went over something that is being discriminated out or blanked out by the machine. This is useful if you're out in the field, let's say, for example, looking for relics, and you're at an old homestead. You know in the field there was somewhere there was an old home, but there's no evidence of really where it was. So you start swinging around there and you come up on some nails. You'll never know you're in nails if the machine's discriminating the nails out and you don't have threshold on. But if you can hear your threshold and you go over nails and the threshold starts cutting out, then oh, that's a clue. You're in some iron and there could be some other stuff nearby. In fact, you're probably where the old house was if you're in an area where there's a lot of iron. So it's good to use threshold. Read up more on that in your owner's manual and watch future videos I have or other videos. If you go back on my channel and watch some videos on the X-Terra Pro, for example, we'll talk more about threshold and why it's important. Of course, the Manicore and the Equinox 900 videos talk about this as well. We're going to turn it down now. And just to show you, if you hold the menu button in on that, on threshold, there is no other menu below that. Hear the warning beep telling you there's no other secondary menu in threshold. So let's toggle over to the next one. This one here is your tones. You can see right now we're in 5 tones. And I can go up or down with the arrows, with the negative or plus sign. If I go up, it's in all tones. Depth mode. And then down would be all tones, 5 tones, 2 tones, and 1 tone. So those are our options. Just one single tone, which means everything this machine detects sounds exactly the same, just 1 tone. If you go to 2 tones, you can split the machine and tell it where you want one tone to be and where the other tone is. And you can move this from 2 tone. You can adjust so that you can hear a certain tone on one side of the discrimination pattern compared to a different tone on the right. And we could go up to 5 tones, all tones, and then depth tones. So Depth is very powerful. I like depth. I use it a lot. Basically what it does is if you are detecting in this mode and there's an object that is shallow, it's going to be very loud. If the object is deep, it's going to be a lot more quieter than something that's shallow. And it's cool because if you have a quarter signal, for example, an 89 pops up on here, and it's really loud, it's telling you that it could be a quarter that's very shallow. But if you hear a quiet 89, that's telling you that it's deep. And you might want to dig the deep 89s before you dig the shallow 89s, because those could be silver or old. So if you're in a park, for example, this is a good mode to help you kind of cherry pick out the deep silver that could be hiding down there. So again, it's down to 1 tone, 2, 5, all tones, and depth. And if we hold this in, let's see what happens. No advanced menu. You see that? Just get your warning tone. All right, let's go to the next mode. This is your accept reject, and we'll talk more about that in the next video. And you can go refer to your owner's manual right now about how to use accept and reject. But basically, it's allowing you to take the plus and minus sign and drive across the top up here. And say, for example, you're detecting something that's a 20 and it's a pull tab, and you've dug so many pull tabs you don't want to dig any more 20s. With it on 20 right now, again, I navigated to 20 with these, the minus sign or the plus sign. Once I'm there, I can click the accept reject and it will knock 20 out. That means it will ignore 20 from here on out. I can put it back just by clicking that again. So I hope that makes sense, but that's how you would adjust that whole discrimination pattern up on top. All right, if we hold the cogwheel in here on accept reject, there will be a secondary menu. There it is. And you can see this is the breakpoint for the ferrous tone. So you can set it where the ferrous tone ends at this point. So from -9 all the way up to 0 right now is where it will make iron audio ferrous tones for you. But you can move that all the way up to, let's say, for example, 12. And that's how you adjust this. We're not going to do anything to show you this in action, so you have to check your owner's manual on this and read more about it, or watch my next video where we show this application in the field. But for now, just know that this is where the ferrous breakpoint is. All right, so let's get back out of here and check the next one here. When you first come in, it's recovery speed. There's only 3 settings. Read your owner's manual for more about this, but basically if you have a recovery speed of 1, you're telling the processor in here that you want it to use all of its power for depth, that you want to hear the deepest things you can. And you want the processor to focus so much on depth that it may not be as good as it could be by hearing a bunch of targets right next to each other. In other words, the recovery speed, think about recovery meaning how fast it can recover from one signal to the next and hear the next signal. So for example, if you went up to 3, the highest recovery speed, now you're telling the processor, I don't care about depth anymore. I want you to be really fast so you can hear that quarter right next to a nail. So you hear the nail and then the quarter, nail, the quarter. You want the processor to be fast. By doing this, you're going to hear co-located targets that are good, like coins and jewelry that are right in the middle of trash, but you're losing depth. In the middle, you kind of get the best of both. Of course, if you're out in the middle of a field like a soccer field and there's no nails and no junk out there, and you just want the really deep stuff, you'd want to run it so that the processor is focusing on depth. That'd be a recovery speed of 1. Again, more of that on your owner's manual, and in my next video, we'll talk about it too. If we go hold this in, we go to the final menu in here, and that is your ferrous setting, your FE setting. And we can go down to a -1 up to 2. And that's the only settings you have. So this is a very powerful feature, -1. We just talked about here in the quarter right next to a nail. If you're trying to work in heavy iron and you're trying to hear good, desirable, conductive targets hiding in the iron, a -1 will take some of the iron that it normally would ignore and allow it to come through enough so that you can hear the high conductor sitting right next to it. In other words, it won't allow the nail to blank the machine out and miss the quarter. So the lower you have this, the more it tells the processor you really want to hear the nail and maybe right next to it the high conductor. But if you go this direction and you get up to this side of the equation inside the processor is now saying that it's just not going to hear nails at all. And by doing that, it may miss a coin or a desirable target that's really close to the nail. But at least you don't have to hear nails. So this is a very powerful setting that you can use to tell the machine how often you want to hear iron. And it's not just nails, it's all iron. So FE stands for ferrous, and ferrous is iron. All right, that concludes all of the icons across the bottom. Let's talk real quick about the light. If we turn the light on, we're going to hold this in and turn the light on for a second. And then we'll do it again to the middle setting and then off. But if you hold it in for more than 2 seconds, watch what happens. It turns on the flashlight down below. I don't know if you can see that, but now there's a flashlight down here that's on for night detecting. To shut it off, you just hold that in again. It shuts it off. You can tell it's on the screen. There'll be a little icon up here that pops up that shows a flashlight. Watch, I'll turn it back on. There's that little icon up there. And if I hold it in again, that icon goes away. All right. Then there's one other button over here. And this is for your headphones, to pair your headphones. So if you turn it on and you turn your headphones on, it'll automatically pair as long as it's been paired at least once before. If this is the first time you're pairing your headphones, you'll want to hold this in. And now it's looking for the headphones, and you want to put the headphones, the ML85 headphones, in the same state where it's looking for the machine by holding in its power button. I'm not going to demonstrate that in this video, but in the next video I will. But you can see this in action in my X-Terra Pro video. If you find that on my channel, we do show this feature and how to sync these together. I even have a YouTube short on this as well you could find on my channel. But anyway, that's how you turn the headphones on. And that's how you put it into the pairing mode for the headphones. And that kind of concludes everything. I did want to also mention, I don't know if you noticed, but when I turn the backlight on, it lights up the buttons down here too as well. You see the buttons are red. If I go to the middle setting, they're still lit. It's hard to see in this well-lit room, but at night you'll notice that all these buttons have a faint light around them so that you can see them at night. If you go to no light, then you won't see the buttons. And again, look up on top for the icon to see that there's lights even on. See the light icon up there? And if I hold it in, the flashlight icon comes on as well. See that? So there's little icons up there telling you if your lights are on or not. Question, does the light on drain the battery? Technically, yes, but it's very minimal. So I wouldn't worry about that too much. All right, and the last thing we're going to show you is how to turn on the vibrating handle. There's 2 different modes of vibrating handle. To get to that, let's use the cogwheel and go over to the volume. And here's volume. When we're on volume, remember we can go into the advanced volume, right? By holding this in. Let's go back out to the regular volume first. When you're here, you hit the frequency button down here once, and you'll feel a zip, zip on the handle down here that's on, and you can see the vibrating handle icon up here on top telling you your vibrating handle is on. That's called master vibrating handle setting. So right now, the master vibrating handle is on. That means it will vibrate on everything that it detects. And if you want to feel every signal that you hear, you would have the master vibrating handle feature on like it is now. However, you can also hold this in to go into the advanced and tap this again, and now it turns on the iron vibrating handle. So now it vibrates on iron. You cannot turn on the vibrating iron feature if you don't already have it on in the master version first. So let me repeat that. I'm going to shut that off real quick, and I'm going to go back out to the main one. So I'm going to shut that off. So with vibrating handle off, notice it's not on up here. If I go into the advanced and attempt to turn it on here, it won't turn on because master has to be on before you can turn on the vibrating handle for the iron. So we'll go back out to the main one more time, turn the master on, there it is, go to the advanced, and now we want to feel the iron too, so we turn that on. And that's it. That is everything that I have to show you for your settings. Seems like a lot, but it's really not. Just go back and watch the video a few times and read your owner's manual online. You can find that on Minelab's website. There's a link to that down in the description of this video. And that is it for now. The next thing we will do is take this thing out in the field in another video, and I'll show you the startup procedure. What do you do when you first get out of the car? You're new detecting site, what are the first 4 or 5 things you do with the machine before you start out. I'll show you all that, and then we'll turn the machine on, go out and show you some of the advanced features in here in action in the field. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching, guys.